Welcome back to the Act 2 podcast, a podcast for the real-life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And we are Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This podcast is just one of the things we do. Thank you for joining us here. We also do Patreon stuff. Head over there. We do movie nights where we all watch a movie, the same movie, and then hop on a Zoom and we talk about it.
Yeah, we don't watch it together and at the same time. We watch it at different times.
None of those things happen because we're all over the world. That's the beauty of podcasts and listener communities. But hopping on a Zoom and talking about the movie is us having together time, and it's great. You could also, if you don't want to join Patreon, subscribe, rate, write a comment, all the great algorithm things that helps boost us to other writers who may want this information, just like you do. If you don't like any of those things, you can DM us as well with questions and topic suggestions, follow-up questions on our episodes. And you can do that at ActTwoWriters@gmail.com, all spelled out, or on our Instagram and Twitter at ActTwoWriters. I'm Story Thursday on Instagram and Tasha 3.0 on Twitter and Blue Sky.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram. Tasha!
Joshua.
How you feeling?
I'm good. How are you? It's much earlier for you than it is for me.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling all right. I just want to give an update on something that you and I have been working on.
Yeah.
You sent me the first half of the script that we've been periodically updating people on that we haven't really even talked about the plot yet.
Yeah, our murder mystery.
Mystery.
I did it.
You did it somehow, some way. You did it. Oh, and the other day we obviously did an episode on a sketchpad, your sketchpad. And the other day I was writing notes down for myself and in a notebook, and I actually filled out an entire page and I wrote you. I was like, dude, I just filled out a page of my notebook. I can't believe it. And you're like, yeah, haha, you suck. And then
your pages are so small.
And then I happened to walk outside like 30 minutes later, and there was an Amazon delivery with a sketch pad delivered from you. So thank you very much.
You're welcome. Was it the biggest package you've ever received?
Ever. I was like, oh, what now? Like, I yelled to my family. I was like, what did you get now? And I was like, wait, this is to me.
And then were you like, oh no, someone has sent me anthrax or something?
I was like, oh, wait, hang on. How's this? Wait.
Because I noticed you opened it outside. So I had the thought, like, maybe you thought it was a ticking bomb or something. You just wanted to be a little safer. Because I've never sent you a single thing. People don't realize this. We're very close friends. We've been friends for quite a long time.
Yeah.
I've never given you a Christmas gift, a birthday gift, ever.
Well, you actually have sent me one thing.
Besides the sketchpad?
Yes.
What did I send you?
It was a book.
That's right. A Christmas book.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's weird is gifting is my love language, Josh.
Ooh.
So I don't know. I guess I want you to know how restrained I've been because I want to send you things.
That's amazing. Thank you. I feel so honored. I am horrible with gifts. I don't send anything to anyone, and I probably have still sent you more things than you have sent me.
That is... To be fair, you did give me one gift once, but inside were so many gifts in this one gift that I feel like it does overtake.
I'm so bad with it. But this is all to say, I have one now.
Have you used it? Have you written anything yet?
And wait, I want to also just say one more thing. You're going to be sending me a script. Sorry about that, by the way, in advance, because I got so complacent with our notes taking because you had this big sketch pad that when we were doing our note session, you wrote everything down. I was like, oh my God, she's just like, got it.
I had a sketch pad. I had to. I wrote a lot of notes in the script. Like I printed the script out on this like work computer over here. And I wrote a lot of notes in the margin. But now I'm 3,000 miles away. I have to send this to Josh somehow.
Yeah.
And so I tried to do it at the office that I was working at, and it like ate the script.
Yeah.
You guys, the terror that happened as I was doing it. I tried it twice. Both times it ate the script. Now there's like a missing ear on one of the pages. Don't know what page number that is.
Yeah.
A bunch of the pages are all crumpled up. And as Josh called it, it's the holy grail. If this script is lost, so is all of our genius in our note session that we did with each other.
No, this was it. She actually took notes like on an old school script. Like we don't have a digital copy. We don't
digital
have
copies.
We have nothing.
This is the wild, wild west.
So, yeah.
There's gardening outside. Sorry, guys.
No, it's all good. So anyway, thank you for sending it. I actually do feel honored because I do know that you send a lot of gifts, and now I finally have been put on the list. Number 2, I do open a lot of my packages outside because I have this insane phobia of a cockroach running out of
bugs.
One of the boxes.
Right. No, you've had disturbing experiences with this. I get it.
I've seen the other side, and I'm not going back.
That's a really great point.
And then that's how a lot of these bugs spread in houses. Anyway,
it's true. It's true.
And then number 3, that's it. I'm excited, so thank you, and that's my rambly update.
Can I do a This Week in Writing before we jump in?
Please.
This Week in Writing.
So this week, I was talking to a writer who never outlines. Never, ever, ever. Hates it. Doesn't do it. Feels like it's a waste of time. And she was writing an outline because she was trying to tell me, like, pitch me her story. And she's like, let me just put it in a quick outline for you. And she found herself being super frustrated by the process because she does an outline, again, doesn't agree with it, but also felt like by the end, it was actually very rewarding because the reason, again, she's writing this outline to me is so that she can talk out her ideas with me because she has writer's block. She doesn't know where to go next in the story. She's tried a bunch of different ways. None of them have really worked. And so she found at this stage, she's like halfway through, maybe like a third of the way through her story. And she's found that in having to outline to explain to me what she envisions happens next, she's actually discovered a lot of plot holes and things that aren't working that she didn't realize when she was in the middle of everything, which I think reemphasizes what we've said on this podcast before, which is that outlining is just another tool to put in your toolbox, where sometimes it's a mandatory step, a producer demands it, or maybe your brain needs to do an outline before you start a script, but you can also use it as a tool during your process. I think I have countless times hit a wall on a script and then just rewrote it as a bullet pointed outline. And I know you have too as well, Josh. Or maybe you start writing paragraphs again about like what this thing is, what I want it to be, because you've lost your way in the process of writing. And I think because we are writers, writing an outline can be a tool to actually get the writing problem solved. So I just wanted to say that as a reminder, outlining can be a tool in your tool chest at all stages of the writing process.
Did she figure out her problems without even having to talk to you because she was doing that?
Well, I'm talking to her right after this podcast, and I bet you she will have a lot more answers than she thought she did when she first sent it or first decided to send it.
Freaking outlines, man.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. It's so important. It's so basic. It's so important. The whole writer's block thing. And then you just write down bullet points and you realize you have figured out your story.
Yeah, it helps to just see it on a page in front of you in its simplest form because, yeah, you can then more easily see the problems. It's great. It's great. It's a great little tool. Okay, main topic. This was inspired by an interesting list that I found on the New York Film Academy's website. I'm always just kind of poking around at cool resources for writers, and I found this tips for aspiring screenwriters list, which we will post on our socials after this airs. And I think whether you're an up-and-coming screenwriter or you're a working screenwriter, a lot of these are actually really good reminders that inspired me when I was reading them. So I thought we should talk about them.
Yes, I love it. Let's do it.
So the first thing on the list of tips for aspiring screenwriters is to challenge yourself. So step outside your comfort zone, experience new genres, styles, themes, writers, directors that you've never experienced before. Challenge yourself.
Challenging yourself is any script. Just challenge yourself to finish it, I think, is the first step. Like, that's it, full stop. Because once you finish a script, I think then you can finish another script. And then you can start challenging yourself. On this note, I was talking to actually a producer who decided to try his hand in writing. And he basically couldn't finish a script. And he would constantly make these comments, well, that's why you're a writer. That's why I can't, I can't finish this script. Can you help me with this? Like whatever. We were having these conversations. And it really is a big deal to finish a script. So I'm saying, yes, challenge yourself, of course. But I think you challenge yourself. Maybe at first you write with confidence about what you can finish, where that is challenging yourself, as opposed to like trying to write about another genre that you have no idea about while trying to finish the script. Did that make sense?
I think so. Challenge yourself to finish your writing.
Yeah.
I sort of don't agree necessarily with the New York Film Academy's suggestion that you try to write in different genres. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you don't like Westerns and you're never going to write a Western, why would you write a Western? However, I would say challenge yourself in the sense of like, watch those movies because people love them and they are really good. And so figure out why they're good. Figure out why they were so popular for so many years, because it's going to get your brain going and something may inspire you. So to me, like that's what the challenge yourself tip is about, is challenge yourself, yes, to do something hard, like finish a script when you don't want to. Challenge yourself to do all the basic things you need to do as a screenwriter, but also challenge yourself to think differently and do the things that scare you. I was just having a conversation with a writer this week about a certain kind of pitching style that she and I are trying to work on.
Oh.
And she was saying that it scared her to do it. And so she did it. And those kind of people constantly impress me. And those kinds of writers tend to make a lot more progress and do so a lot quicker than writers who allow themselves to be afraid of challenges. So, I mean, just this is a life lesson to me as well as a writing specific lesson, which is if something scares you or makes you feel uncomfortable or nervous, it's probably because you have to do it.
Beautiful.
So that's one screenwriting tip. Challenge yourself. Okay. Write from an emotional place is another tip from this site. Write from an emotional place. I mean, we talk about this all the time, right,
Yeah.
Josh? Instead of writing from plot or from an idea that you think someone will want to hear, try looking inward and figuring out what moves you and write a story that contains that idea. Whether, you can take it literally and be like, well, I just had a terrible breakup. Let me write about that breakup and do a couples story, a drama or whatever, the marriage story version. It's like you don't have to do that. But if your sort of emotional drive at that moment is about, I don't know, betrayal or whatever it was that broke up you as a couple, put that in a spy movie, put that in a cartoon, put that in anything.
Yeah.
But the emotions that you're feeling that are raw, that you have an opinion about, can go into your work and really make it feel special and specific and unique.
Yeah. This is actually what I love about writing, is the idea that you can put any emotional story in any setting or in any genre. Obviously, coming to mind is the movie Sinners, which we've talked about. We even had a movie night about it. But there's that is a vampire movie with an emotional core, and there are some heavy themes. And that's what I love it. I love writing for this exact reason. So obviously, write with emotion.
Yeah, Sinners was also the movie that came to mind reading this, again, because we had just talked about it for our movie club and whatnot. But that movie, if you read interviews of Ryan Coogler talking about the inspiration for that movie, it came from a lot of different places. It came from a lot of movies that he watched. It came from books that he's read. But most of all, the heart of it, the thing that I think brought all of those influences together into a cohesive story that he realized he could tell, was a personal connection to his uncle and the stories his uncle would tell him about living in this part of the world at this time. So that is a perfect example. I see why you thought of Sinners. Okay, this next piece of advice I think is really interesting that it made the list, but I'm curious about your opinion. Write the ending first. This article talks about how Francis Ford Coppola, who of course did The Godfather, The Conversation, Apocalypse Now, he would apparently, famously, I did not know this, write his endings first, or at least know what they were first.
I wish I had this ability to be like, here's the ending. But I will say, before I start writing something, I usually know the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I say this from a sense of, all right, we have this character. Her name is Tasha. This is where she's starting, and this is where she's ending. So it's like that full arc of a person. To me, that's what writing the ending first means, as opposed to something plot driven. It's like what Vince Gilligan said about Heisenberg, where he was like, I'm going to start with, what was it, Mr. Chips, and turn him into Scarface.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's like writing your ending first. I think you kind of get to that emotional turn. I think you can then kind of fill out once you know where the characters go.
Yeah, writing the ending for like literally writing the ending first like gives me anxiety because I don't know emotionally how that's going to really pay off until I've written everything to begin with. However, I agree. I always know how my thing ends when I go into it.
Yeah.
And it may change over the course of the thing. The way it pays off may change. The setting may change. But the arc usually doesn't change. It often does, actually. But it usually doesn't because I know that this is the story I'm telling, right? I'm starting from Mr. Chips to Scarface. That's the story I'm choosing to tell here. And so it's always going to end at Scarface somehow. I'm a huge proponent of knowing where it's going. And even this friend that I'm going to talk to today about her outline and whatnot, I think a big question I'm going to have is, where is it going? How does it end? And how do you basically backtrack from there to find the signposts of your movie or your TV show based on where you know it's going to end? If you have no idea where it's going to go, it's just harder. It's just harder to write. Can you find it? Sure. Is it probably going to take you a lot longer to get there? Yes. So I'm a big proponent of knowing this as well. Mm-hmm. But it's because I'm also, and I think you are as well, I am the kind of writer who loves arcs of characters in movies. And they don't always have to arc. Like, I feel like Indiana Jones doesn't really arc that much in his movies. I'm sure that there was an idea that he needs to start here, whether it's like he needs to start not believing in hokum and the supernatural. And then at the end, he fucking witnesses the Ark explode and kill people and melt their faces. So like that is also at least knowing your ending, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. This is where you're going to shine, Josh, I think. Do or do not, there is no try, is this next tip, where basically organize your life, schedule your life so you get shit done. Don't just try to do this job because you're never going to actually succeed if you just try. You gotta fucking do it.
Yeah. I think this is where you would shine. I feel like there could be the worst things happening around us. And if I gave you some pages and I'm like, hey, can you please finish these? I know you will figure out a way to finish those pages. Our script is a perfect example of what just happened, where it's like, I know you have a lot going on. And it was kind of like, oh, but you know what? I know Tasha's going to get those pages back to me. And you just got to finish it. I don't know how it happens. I don't know what has to be done, whether those are hours you have to wake up at a different time, you have to stay up later. You just got to lock it in and do it, because you're going to regret it for the rest of your life.
I mean, I don't think you're wrong.
There's a million examples, but just because we're on this topic, like our script, for example, this is one of those things where it's like, I will rather die than not finish the script because of where we are in the process.
Yeah.
And it would be one of those things where I've not finished scripts and I haven't thought about them, right? There's things on my computer where I'm like, okay, that just didn't work out. But there are other ideas where they just eat at you and eat at you and eat at you. And then if you don't write them, which has happened, then you see like the version of that movie come out at some point in the future, or you always think about it, or you talk about it and you're like, why didn't I finish that? That's worse, man. That's like worse. And that's how not just saying this, that's how I feel about what we're writing. And I felt that on other scripts as well, where I'm just like, oh my God, how did I not do this?
it helps that we have each other because I feel like I have to deliver, or I'm either going to fuck up Josh's schedule because he's also a very busy man and he needs to get this done.
My head might fuck up my happiness. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Yeah. And I don't want to fail Josh. And so it becomes a huge priority. And to Josh's point, I had a lot of things that were like work related, that were actual jobs that I had to do before I got to this. So honestly, I was like panicking as I saw each day tick down and I still hadn't started writing it. And then I finished a job earlier than I expected. Praise baby Jesus. And was able to like dive into this. And I even still texted you. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know if this is going to work. Because also the way your script is, the way any script is really, you get to a point where you're like, whew, this part's going to be tough to write. It's going to be hard. I don't know I can't fully envision it in my head. So I'm going to have to find it on the page. It's just going to be a really hard thing to write. And that came up basically like the day before I was supposed to turn it into you. And I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna have to take the rest of. I basically had to stop writing midday because I didn't have the brain energy to get through this tough part, and I was like, fuck, that limits. Now I only have tomorrow to do this, and I better get through it. I'm kind of like, I got to another point where I was like, I'm tired. So it helps to have a partner, in other words.
Well, I didn't mean to put you in that position, number one. Number two, I'm also just saying that this goes back to the first point of challenge yourself, where it's like, just finish the script of if you're starting to write that. And a lot of it, it's not even one of those things where it's like, I need to finish this, I need to get this done and try to sell it and do this with it, get this actor attached, whatever it is. Sometimes you just have to do it for your own personal state of mind to know that you can do it, because if you don't, I feel those things kind of accumulate over time, and you then start believing that you can't do something, and when that starts happening, that's a dangerous path.
Honestly, it's a really good point. If I allowed myself to not push through, then it's much easier for me to allow myself to not push through the next time, because there's just emotional precedent there. But the more that I can prove to myself that if I push through, I can get something done, the more I understand just how my day works better. Then, because now I can look ahead and see the hours I have left in my day until, I don't know, dinner with my family. And know now, because I've done it before, that if I push myself until that dinner time, I can get shit done and I can get this much done. And it just starts to quantify your day in a way that I think becomes extremely helpful for writing.
Yeah.
Josh, you sent me a quote recently that I feel like is exactly about this, and it like changed my life.
Okay. It is from the great Roger Federer, arguably the greatest tennis player of all time, not Novak Djokovic. People love it. Okay, anyway. Okay, that's a whole, okay, what am I talking about? Why am I talking about tennis, Tasha? Here is the quote. Roger Federer on the kind of talent you can practice. Yes, talent matters. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it doesn't, but talent has a broad definition. Most of the time, it's not about having a gift. It's about having grit. In tennis, like in life, discipline is also a talent, and so is patience. Trusting yourself is a talent. Embracing the process, loving the process is a talent. Managing your life, managing yourself, these can be talents too. Some people are born with them. Everybody has to work at them.
I love it so much.
Come on.
Because it's a reflection of what I thought was true. And then if someone great like that confirms it, it's like, oh, thank God. I'm not just making myself crazy for no reason. I'm actually teaching myself these valuable skills about organizing my day and doing all the things I just said. It hit home for me in a really great way.
Yeah, and you always talk about it, having grit. It's so true. This is why we always talk about sports or as like a screenwriting comparison. It's one of those things where it's like, I just got to keep going. I got to get through this. I have to manage this, balance this, focus on this, all the things.
We always talk about how, the key to succeeding in this business is just stick-to-itiveness, just continually working on it and developing and honing and scheduling. And it's almost like not even talent. Like he says, like it's not even talent that gets someone that far. And it's please embody this. It's so true.
Yeah.
Okay. Read your work aloud. Is that something that you advocate, Joshua?
I do. I do it myself.
Do you read your scripts out loud when you reread it?
Not all the time. It's not something I like set out to do, but it's when I'm trying to figure out the flow of a page. And if I feel stuck and then I read it, I feel like I can kind of work through some kinks.
Do you act it out? Because I know you're a SAG actor. So
I am a SAG actor. And sometimes I do find myself embodying the role. So yes.
I used to read my scripts aloud and don't anymore because it takes too long.
Yeah. No, I can see that.
And so I've like streamlined my process a little bit. That being said, every time you do a table read, you learn something new about your script and you hone your dialogue better. And you probably hone your action description better because you're like, oh, that person had to say a lot of words there.
Yeah.
And I could probably get to it in a shorter way. We're actually starting to do table reads now with Act Two, not with the podcast, but with the Act Two network and those ActTwoWriters. And I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to really help people hone their craft. And I will encourage you listeners, also people on our Patreon, because you have a community built in there already, to start doing this as well. If just bring your friends together, like even just your friends, because writers aren't actors. So your friends are probably not actors either. It doesn't matter. You just need to hear it, right? Ask them over, give them some pizza or some coffee and bagels, and just ask them to read your script. And, don't do it too often because that can get tiring. But when you're ready and you feel like you're ready to hear it, I think it's a really great process.
Yeah, just real quick, I was really fortunate. My friend, who is an actor, when I had first moved to LA, he asked me to be a part of a table read, which was with other actors, but I would just read I had like 8 different roles, where you just read like one line or something like that. And it was my first time doing a table read, but it was in a very professional setting. And that was when I had heard how the process works. And I heard what worked, what didn't. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is why a table read is so important, for that exact reason. You can hear just the clunky dialogue, all the exposition, all the things.
Yeah. I think I've told this story before, but when I first moved to LA, I was desperately trying to A, make friends, but B, find ways into the entertainment industry, and just people who thought like me and cared about things like I did. And I found this, I think it was on a meetup of some kind, where it was writers and actors came together and they rented out a little shitty theater on Melrose, and like the part of Melrose no one ever goes to. And you get chosen to submit like 10 pages of your script. And then actors who were struggling actors trying to find their place the same way that the writers in the group were, got to have the chance to go up on stage and act and like be directed a little bit. And so it was this really cool benefit for everybody. And if you can find that kind of community wherever you are, it's really helpful for all the same reasons Josh just said. Okay. Print your work out is the next one, because viewing your writing from a different medium, this says, can help you to edit and see your thing differently. This is an interesting tip to put on a screenwriting list.
Yeah.
But I like it because I agree.
It's a little bit of an old school tip, I must say.
And yet I printed out my script,
and
I do feel like having it there in a physical, tangible way that I could flip through it and write things actively was just a whole other ball game.
My only problem with it is when it comes to, it's good for editing certain things, but I feel like when you're like, wait, hang on, what page did this happen on? Or you're trying to remember a character moment, and just for the sake of holding something, you're holding a physical copy and you're on page 20 and you're like needing to flip to 42 and you're just like going through, and then the pages are getting a little messy. I like it. I like the idea, but I just don't think it's an everyday thing for me.
No, it's like at a certain stage. At a certain stage, it can adjust your view of the script.
Yeah.
I will usually print it out at like the very, very last stage. That's like when I've done all the things. What I often do, which is somewhat similar of a concept, is if I go to reread a script, I will print it to PDF, and I'll just reread it as a PDF instead of read it in final draft, because I just see it differently. I might even throw it over to my iPad so that I can see it, again, even more differently than just on my laptop. For some reason, guys, try it if you haven't already. Just reading it in a different medium can really help you just feel, I think, distanced from it a little more in a good way.
I agree.
Okay. I feel like you will have thoughts on this next one. Experiment with different genres and mediums. It can be good to mix things up and refresh your creative voice, this article says.
Yeah, we have talked about hone your craft, make your brand, like do your thing, become the screenwriter that people know you as, and then start experimenting in other avenues while still overlapping in how you are known. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Because, again, to bring up Ryan Coogler, Fruitvale Station was his first movie. That was a drama. And then he goes on to do Creed, drama, action drama, boxing drama, sports drama. And then he goes on to do Black Panther. Straight up fucking giant ass, big. You can't get bigger than a Marvel movie. And then he goes smaller. I think it's like $90 million for budget for this movie, for Sinners. And it's a smaller period drama horror. None of his other stuff was horror. So that I guess I like experiment with genres if it's what you want to do. Don't just do it to do it. I don't think it helps for me to write a comedy just to like stretch my comedy bones. I just don't. It's not really. I don't know.
Yeah. I agree. You don't do it just to do it. I've done that. I've done it. I've failed at writing in a different genre, and it doesn't feel great.
Are you talking about your rom-com?
No.
Rom-com, Josh?
No, but thank you. I was talking about The Witch of Green Grove.
Oh, that was not a failure.
It was to me, Tasha.
It's not going to be. One day it'll sell and it'll be great and you'll understand everything.
Like, wait a minute. It all makes sense.
Someone will see it for what it is. Okay, next up on the tips is brush up on the filmmaking process. As a screenwriter, it can be helpful to have a basic understanding of the filmmaking process. Josh, do you agree?
Yeah, I think it's always important to stay on current times, but I don't think it's like I'm not looking for new editing tools as a screenwriter, or there's a certain level in which I'm looking at it. I don't. So I agree to always stay kind of relevant or current with the relevant trends and things that are happening, but not to become so immersed that it's taken away from your writing.
This is an interesting one because I don't know if this was your experience in film school, but I went to film school as a grad student. So I got my MFA in screenwriting, and it was there that I had to in order to graduate, I had to take a production class and make my own short from start to finish, run a crew and all of that. It was terrible. I mean, the short was terrible, not the class. Mm-hmm. And then B, this class was actually terrible. I had to take an acting class. Acting for Writers was what it was called. It was the worst experience of my life. I hated it. But it was key I went to Boston University. For them, they believed very much in this principle that you have to know each part of the process of people behind the camera, people basically that you are setting in motion with your writing. You have to understand what they're going through and the problems that they face in order to understand how to write properly. And the more you meet professional screenwriters who have on-set experience and are making big movies and big TV shows, the more they understand the filmmaking process. And that doesn't mean they can go behind the camera and be an amazing cinematographer or be the next Chris Nolan, but they understand the practical issues that come up with both actors, cinematographers, producers, gaffer, like everybody behind the camera who has to create the thing that they put on page. They understand it so that they know when they write a scene, they're like, ugh, this is going to bloat the budget, or like, there's no way this can be practically shot in water. So if I want maybe this other scene to actually happen, maybe I need to change the scene that's in water to something else. And it's not compromising your vision. And sometimes you just write the scene with water and then be told later that we can't do it, right? Because who knows, maybe that scene in water will be great. But the fact that you know it can help you decide from a smart, intelligent foundation whether the scene with water should go ahead in your script or not, rather than just being very ignorant. I mean, I've told the story before about how the first script I ever wrote for work was a Warner Brother movie. And my first script was so bloated, my first draft, that it was like a $300 million movie because I just like wrote whatever the fuck I wanted to. And then they laughed at me and said, Tasha, no. And so I had to go back and trim. If I had experience and knew, and by the way, I had a ton of experience by then, but I hadn't had on-set experience. I hadn't made movies, right? Yeah. I was an assistant for a long time at Universal, so I saw, the point of view where I should have known. But I was just so stoked to be a writer all of a sudden. So the more you know, in other words, the better I think your scripts can be. I really agree with this. If you can take production classes, take acting classes, and pay attention to what they feel and think about their scripts. Okay, this is related. Read and watch often.
I don't feel like we need to get deep into this. Yes, you need to stay up to, read scripts, watch things.
And this is where other genres can come in, I think.
Yeah.
And seeing people at the top of their game making everything there is under the sun.
Yeah. Sometimes I will find myself maybe watching too much TV, which is great, but I like to write films. So I have to then kind of recalibrate. I'm like, I got to get off too much this streaming Netflix show or whatever, and now watch something else. But all of it works. Read, watch. Yeah, that's. I think that's obvious to me.
Yeah. Okay. The last one is overcome your imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say about this one either. It is the single most difficult thing I think I will face in my career.
Yeah.
I'm actively working on it every single day. And gosh, we just had an episode, just recently had an episode about self-talk and the negative shit we can convince ourselves of, which is just such a waste of our time and energy. Yeah. And, everyone else is going to basically be the negative self-talk and tell us we're imposters. Why help them along the way, But it's not a perfect journey to suddenly not have imposter syndrome. I remember Ilona Mayer.
Oh.
She's awesome. She's so cool. But I saw an interview with her where someone, a female journalist, asked her about imposter syndrome. Does she have it? And you could tell the journalist just assumed the answer was yes. And like, how do you deal with it? And she was like, oh, I don't have that. And she's like, I also don't understand it. And the journalist was like, what? Like, explain to me. The journalist like, I have imposter syndrome all the time. How do you not have imposter syndrome? And she's like, yeah, people have told me about it. It's like that thing where you don't think you belong, right? And like, I was like, are you kidding me right now? I was like melting. And she's like, well, I work really hard at what I do. So of course I deserve it because I work really hard. Like, why wouldn't I deserve it? And for like that never occurred to me for some reason. Something about my DNA, I don't know, but I work so hard and still don't think I deserve to be in the room or am as intelligent as someone else who might be in the room. And I just need to channel more of her.
Yeah, it's complicated. I feel like there's different levels to imposter syndrome because you can't be the person who has not won a gold medal, let's say, or who is just doesn't practice or who's not trying harder than everybody else and then still be like, yeah, I should be here. But you can be like that because it'll be good.
Those people make it all the time.
No, I understand. Yeah. So, but I feel
no, don't be like that.
No, I do feel like there's a genuine belief in yourself that I think people can recognize. And then there is also a forced belief that I also think some people can recognize. And I think the genuine belief in yourself is what gets you over the imposter syndrome, as opposed to somebody who is burying that and that still is kind of popping up, that little imposter syndrome voice, but you're like pushing it down because you know that's something you have to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like your example is she genuinely had that belief in herself, right?
She did, yeah.
Rightfully so. Whereas, I think you and I, you meet people, especially in the entertainment industry, you're like, I'm the next Spielberg. And you're like, what have you made? And you're like, well, I'm still making it or something like that. And you're like, all right. But they can try to convince you of that without having really put the work in.
It is an interesting part of our business that can be true. And that those people, the thing with those people though, is they will always eventually be held to the test.
Correct. Yes.
And you better show up if you do genuinely believe you're the next Spielberg, which is fine. Yeah, this is a great one. I struggle with it. I will try to find her interview and post it. It's really this has really made an impression. All right, that is our episode for the day on tips for being a screenwriter. Okay.
Boom.
Quote of the day: write hard and clear about what hurts. Ernest Hemingway. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram or on Twitter, and Blue Sky at Tasha 3.0.
I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act Two podcast is a production of Act Two, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.